Alright, everybody, time for the final episode review of the day, which is Three Ghosts. After being rendered unconscious by a tranquilizer dart to the neck, Barry awakens at the Arrow's lair. Disoriented and confused, he's taken back to see the Arrow sprawled out on a table. Felicity steps forward and begs him to save Oliver. Realizing that Ollie's blood is rapidly coagulating, Barry improvises a blood thinner from rat poison. Oliver awakens and immediately becomes angry that Felicity has revealed his secret. He storms off, leaving Felicity, Diggle, and Barry a little hurt. I can't say I blame him. Back at Queen's house, Thea reveals that Roy did not go to the hospital and needs aid. Oliver removes the arrow that he had thrown and calls for John to come over with a first aid kit. Oliver starts to hallucinate, as well as a flashback with Slade dying. Oliver, Shadow, Sarah being held at gunpoint and led outside the sub. Ivan makes Oliver choose either Shadow or Sarah to choose to die in 30 seconds. Oliver went back to the Arrow's hideout and asked about side effects from Barry, who agrees to run some tests. Barry and Felicity are able to identify and locate Oliver's attacker, Cyrus Gold. With an unknown about the side effects, Diggle goes into hideout with Oliver as backup. He is caught and injured in the apartment. Oliver then picks him up so they can speed away. They call Quentin, who meets with the detective. He hallucinates Slade and says he's been compromised. Quentin gets a squad together, but one of the men involved is one of Blood's followers. Oliver remembers dashing in front of Sarah. Laurel's out with Sebastian Blood when he learns of her father's injuries. She rushes to see her father. Oliver then visits Quentin and gave Oliver a gold key that he got off the guy. While continuing to discover the truth behind the death of Sin's friend, Max, Roy breaks into an office to steal some files. On the back of the picture is Max with the word Miraku. He manages to spraying gasoline around the building, and Roy makes a break for it, but is caught off guard by Cyrus Gold. Upon running to Gold's arm, Roy is knocked out. He awakens, bound to a chair before Sebastian, who injects him with the Mirakuru serum. Oliver arrives and begins to battle Cyrus. Roy writhes in agony from the effects of the serum and eventually passes out, blood running from his eyes. Momentarily defeated by Cyrus, Oliver has another hallucination, this time involving Tommy, who encourages him to keep on fighting and stop Cyrus. Oliver attempts out of it and then destroys the remaining serum and wounds Cyrus. He then turns to Roy, who has stopped breathing. He begs him to fight, and eventually Roy is revived. Oliver goes to the lair and relates his worries to Felicity that the serum may affect him negatively. Roy wakes up at Thea's room with Thea and Sin worried about where he went. When the girls leave, Roy moves the sheets and realizes his wounded knee is healed. It is revealed that the mastermind of this is Slade, alive and all, and states that the new Mirakuru can be made with its blood, and he will corrupt or kill the Hood's followers, or the ones he loved, before killing him by driving an arrow through his eye. He orders Blood to leave the vigilante alone for his plans. In flashbacks, Ivo flees when Slade turns up with superhuman strength and kills his men. Slade finds a dead Shadow and holds her, upset. He then vowed revenge. Back at the lair, Oliver fills him in on what happened before realizing that Barry is gone and regrets the way he treated him before. He storms to say that Barry left a green domino mask for Oliver to better hide his identity. Barry calls Felicity to say goodbye and arrives home in Central City. During a lightning storm, the new particle accelerator being unveiled as Star Labs malfunctions. While trying to seal up his lab, Barry then notices the liquid surrounding him levitating and witnesses the power outage from the accelerator. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning strikes Barry through the skylight, sending him crashing backwards into several shelves of chemicals. As Barry lies unconscious, a small urge of red lightning runs over his temple. Felicity helps Oliver put on his new mask. Oliver asks how he looks, to which Felicity replies, "Like a hero." Aww. So now let's take a look at some trivia surrounding this episode. The three ghosts who appeared to Oliver are a reference to Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And following this, Shadow is out of the past, with Slade representing Oliver's current self-doubts, and Tommy finally offering redemption and future for Oliver. Slade in the present day appears for the first time with an eye patch and graying hair, both elements which are typical of his character in the comics and most adaptations. The scene at the end where Barry gets struck by lightning will later be used in the pilot episode of the spin-off series The Flash. Reporter Linda Park is a reference to the third Flash, Wally West's wife. Linda will later be recast and appear in person on The Flash. This is the first episode in the Arrowverse that includes both Colin Donnell and Grant Gustin. The second will be Crisis on Earth X Part 2. However, in the latter instance, Donna will instead portray Tommy's Earth X counterpart. In one of the relatively few directions to Judaism, Umbrea asks what Felicity will do for Christmas. She replies, "Lighting my menorah." This episode talks about the English nursery rhyme Solomon Grundy, stating it's about the 7 stages of life. Near the end of the episode, Diggle asks Oliver about Cyrus Gold's whereabouts, to which Oliver replies, "Died on Saturday, buried on Sunday." This alludes to the tale of Solomon Grundy, whose real name was Cyrus Gold before he died. And now finally let's take a look at a goof. At the Queen Mansion, Oliver leaves Thea to tend to an injured warrior in her bedroom prior to his hallucination of Shadow in the middle of the hallway. However, when Thea talks to Oliver, she's standing at the end of the hallway. Though it could explain that Oliver was hallucinating where he couldn't see Thea leave her bedroom. So overall, I think this episode is pretty good, and the fact that it ends with a shot from the pilot episode of The Flash is pretty good. And also the fact that Oliver now has a mask to better conceal his identity, so yeah. So overall, I give 3 ghosts, 4 arrowheads out of 5. Well, anyway, tune in tomorrow as we take a look at the next episode, Blast Radius. So, until then, in the words of Oliver Queen, you have failed this city.